like, what else is there besides just making money? There's got to be more to this. And why do some people have no money and other people have millions and billions of dollars? Why is that? And how can I get involved in that? Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. You know, when I first started in business when I was about 18 years old, my goal was to make money. That was just my entire target because I didn't have any money. And I said, this would be great to be able to do something I enjoy and make a good amount of money doing it. And you know what? That was my target. That was what I was after. It was, I just want to make money. So I did whatever it took to do that. Try to get as many projects as I could, do the least amount of work for the most amount of money. That was the target, right? I didn't know much at 18. Nobody gave me a book on how to run a business or any of that stuff. So it was how fast could I make cash? And that's what it was all about. Turning and burning, getting it done, hustling, 7 days a week. That's what it was about. And you know what? I kept thinking about this idea, this deep, deep want. I'm like, I have no money now, but what would it be like if I had $100,000 in the bank? And I was like, man, I don't even know if that's possible. I don't know anybody that does that or has that. And well, eventually, after many years of grinding, the business account had $100,000. And I remember when we broke that six-figure line, and I was like, holy moly, we've got $100,000. Now, none of that money was mine, but all of it was sitting in there. And I'm thinking, wow, I've never seen so much money in one place. And it started to make me think, okay, good. If we got that, what would it take to get us to like 200? What would that look like? And in a few years, we'd get there. But again, it was in the bank account, not in my personal account. It was in the bank account. And yeah, eventually we were pushing revenue up over, we're trying to get to $1 million in revenue in a design build firm, my original first family run design build firm. And we were pushing that $1 million line, and man, it would get close, 850, 950. Now this is back in the 2000s, right? This is in our early days, 2000 through 2000, maybe 10, like that was the range of time. And back then, $1 million was probably worth about 2 million now. So anyway, the point is, pushing for that, we could never hit that line. Something always pulled us back. And what I found is during that time that my target was revenue. How can I make more money? Because I just want to see more in the account. I want to be able to take a bigger paycheck. I want to be able to buy things, all of that. What I didn't realize was I wasn't working on myself during that time. During that time, my only focus was how do I get more projects to do what I've always done so that I can make more money, because I didn't know anything past that. That was it. But something happens once you get close to the age of 35 or 40, at least it did for me. I started asking bigger questions like, man, all this grind, all this work, 6-7 days a week, like, what is it all for? What are we doing this all for? So at the age of 35, I started on a personal growth journey. I started to read more books and go to seminars, and I started to open up the question, like, what else is there besides just making money? There's got to be more to this. And why do some people have no money and other people have just millions and billions of dollars and all? Like, why is that? And how can I get involved in that? And here's what I learned. So after a couple of great seminars and some real deep work, I started to realize that, in life, your goal isn't the money. It isn't the fame. It isn't the fancy cars or the nicest trucks or the biggest house. Like, all those things are goals, and we need to have goals. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to have targets, bullseyes in our life, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, lifetime goals. We need to set those up, because without, we're just going from place to place, like not having your GPS and just driving west, hoping you'll hit California. Like, just maybe you will, maybe you won't. Might take you forever. You don't know. You might end up in lots of traffic or whatever. But if you have a plan, a setup, and a bullseye that you have at the end where you're shooting for your goals, the next thing you know, they become more attainable because you actually know where you're going. So I say all of this because, goals are great. We try to achieve goals as much as we can, especially early in business, until we learn at least what I've learned during my personal growth journey is, you know what? I was never after the goals deep down. If I really have to ask myself, what am I after? Because once you get those things, once you have that $100,000 in your own personal account, once you have all this stuff that you could ever want in life, there's so much more to life than those things. And I only say that because what I've learned along that journey is that it's not about the goals that you're after. It's about the person you need to become in order to achieve those goals. That's truly the gift in all of this. If you're just starting out in business right now, trying to make money, trying to make more than you're spending, that's a good solid target. But at the end of the day, the guy that runs a $100,000 company and a guy who runs $1 million company, the only difference between those two people, theoretically, is the fact that their mindset is different. If you shifted that $100,000 owner to the $1 million company, what do you think would happen over time? That's right. There's a high probability that that $1 million company will start to become distressed because they don't have that owner, that $100,000 owner doesn't have a $1 million mindset. And the same with the $1 million. If you took that guy and put him in that $100,000 company, what do you think would happen? High probability he'd probably help it grow because he has a $1 million mindset in a $100,000 company. So I say all of this because the person between the $100,000 company and the $1 million company, the difference between them, if you take talent and skill to the side, is the fact that they've gone on a journey to grow as a human and grow their mindset. And when they grow their mindset and they understand what $1 million business owners need to understand, they can then run a $1 million company. And it's not, that might have been their target to run a $1 million company. But I'll tell you right now, the person who started that $1 million company probably started at 100,000 and had to grow their mindset over time. And it was a journey along the way of self-growth and discovery that really becomes the beautiful part that you'll remember. It's the journey, not hitting the goal. Once you hit that $1 million in your revenue in your company, you're like, oh, that's great. Now what? What am I going to do next? I spent all my years now focusing on trying to hit that. Now, what am I going to do? I don't know. I'm lost. Now let's just keep doing what we've been doing. And that's where most companies get stuck. If you listeners, if you can take this one nugget and apply it to your life, it could change everything for you. It certainly did for me. This idea that goals are great to put in front of you, to set up, to make sure you're going in the right direction. But ultimately, it's the person you become trying to achieve those goals that is your true target. So don't try to speed up to get to the goals. Take your time and do it right. Because at the end, when you, whatever your goal might be, let's just go back to the analogy of the $1 million company, the story of the $1 million company. Once you hit that million, then it's like, then what? What are you going to do next? So if you're like, I want to hit 2 million, well, the guy that's running or the girl that's running a $1 million company is not going to effectively run a $2 million company. That person has to grow that journey through mentorship, through learning, through systems, through disciplines. All of that needs to change. So if you're out there as a business owner and you're like, man, I just keep hitting the wall over and over again, I don't understand why. Go back to thinking about your journey that it's been so far. And you might have a big goal. You might have set big budgets for the year and big revenue goals for the year and all of that. Go back and say, what could I do right now as the owner? What could I do right now to help me become more capable of running a $1 million company or a $10 million company, whatever your target is? What could I do today to become more capable of that? And then go in that direction. Maybe it is a book. Maybe it's a seminar. Maybe it's a YouTube video or a podcast. Maybe it's getting a mentor, somebody who you meet with weekly for accountability and pushing forward, constantly seeing your blind spots and helping you push forward. What is it for you that could help you get there? Listeners, I share this because once you take your eyes off of just setting goals and start focusing on how you become better in the process of achieving those goals, and that becomes the goal of all of it, if that even makes sense, everything changes. That tough week, that tough month become all part of the course, if you will, of life that you're moving through the season so that you can become the person who can run that larger company or become that father who can be at all the games or become that mother that is always feeling the love from her family. Those things happen not just by chance, they happen purposefully. And when you're focused on becoming and not just getting, it all changes. So remember, guys, if you're shooting at goals, that's great. But remember, it's the journey along the way for the person you become and trying to achieve those goals. That's the true gift in all of it. And when you can take that, be purposeful with it, everything changes.